The House will be in order. The prayer will be offered by our guest chaplain, the Bhai Mohan Singh of the Gurdwara Singh Sabha of Yakima, Washington. You may begin.
Let us pray. One universal Creator God, by the grace of the true Guru, Almighty God, Vaheguru, we call you by many names, but you are one. Keep your divine hand over the members of this house as they steer our nation's future. Keep truth on our tongues, love in our hearts, and sound judgment in our minds. Remind us of our purpose to love, serve, and create a peaceful world. Bless all leaders working for the common good. Give those who govern humility, courage, integrity, and compassion. Release us from ego so we serve selflessly. Help us remember we belong to one family. Recognize the entire human race as one. You are everywhere. All are yours. Whatever is seen is your form. You are one. Watch over our protectors, ensuring our safety and freedom. Homage to worldwide martyrs who fought for liberty, justice, and equality. In the name of Nanak, find everlasting optimism with your will, Almighty God. May there be grace for all humanity. Pranam ਸਮੂਹ ਸ਼ਹੀਦਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ।
The chair has examined the journal of the last day's proceedings and announces to the House the approval thereof. Pursuant to Clause 1 of Rule 1, the journal stands approved. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by the gentlewoman from Pennsylvania, Ms. Dean.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And without objection, the gentleman from Washington, Mr. Newhouse, is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I rise to honor my guest chaplain, Bhai Mohan Singh. Mohan Singh was the head grantee, or the head priest, in a Gurdwara in Yakima, Washington, and now travels the nation spreading the teachings of Sikhism. Sikhism is the world's 5th largest religion, with nearly 30 million followers worldwide, and roughly 1 million of those are located within the United States of America. It was founded by Guru Nanak in West Punjab in 1469 and is based on 3 cardinal principles: meditate on God, earn a living by honest means, and share with the less fortunate. Mohan Singh is a dedicated preacher with an extensive educational background in Sikhism, with experience in both teaching and leading religious services. His career spans over 2 decades of service in both India and the United States, and we are very fortunate to have him here today with us to lead the opening prayer and to represent the good people of Central Washington. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back.
The chair will entertain up to 5 further requests for 1-minute speeches on each side of the aisle. For what purpose does the gentleman from Pennsylvania seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, request unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to congratulate Susquehanna Regional EMS, UPMC, in North Central Pennsylvania's pre-hospital team on being selected as the 2024 Pennsylvania Agency of the Year by the Pennsylvania Emergency Health Services Council. In their tireless efforts, Susquehanna Regional EMS responded to a staggering number of approximately 20,000 calls in 2023, including 911 emergencies and non-emergent inter-facility transfers. Their commitment to community benefit support was equally impressive, with over 13,000 hours dedicated to events like as the Little League World Series, Williamsport's 4th of July celebration, and Lycoming County Fair. Susquehanna Regional EMS educates providers and the public with programs like UPMC's Minutes Matter and Stop the Bleed. Through a partnership with Susquehanna Health Foundation, 100 AEDs, 100 bleed control kits, and 100 packages of Narcan have been donated to our community. Every minute counts in a medical emergency. Susquehanna Regional EMS daily work has saved countless lives throughout Pennsylvania's 15th Congressional District. On behalf of a grateful community, thank you for your service to our community, and congratulations on this well-deserved award. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Texas seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask for unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute for license.
Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today during Immigrant Heritage Month in recognition of the 12th anniversary of the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program known as DACA. Since 2012, DACA recipients, or dreamers, have experienced uncertainty about their status and future in this country. Yet, their impact is certain. There are nurses, writers, lawyers, teachers, activists, and change makers. They have grown up here, eagerly contributing to the diversity of our country. If Congress does nothing, we lose our neighbors, our family members, and friends. We lose fellow Americans. With the American Dream and Promise Act, House Democrats have a plan with a bipartisan support to finally create a pathway for citizenship for dreamers. In America, we welcome those fleeing harm and danger. We welcome those who believe in the American dream. We put people over politics. Americans support dreamers, and dreamers support America. I yield back.
The gentlewoman yields. For what purpose does the gentleman from Minnesota seek recognition?
Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to express my appreciation to the St. Louis County Rescue Squad and Sheriff's Office for their dedication to responding to emergency situations and to mourn the loss of 2 Minnesotans. Recently, they responded to a tragic accident where a party of 4 canoeists went over a waterfall in the Boundary Waters, and 2 went missing. One of the missing canoeists, Jesse Hagen of Cambridge, was a constituent of mine. Jesse heroically attempted to save his fellow canoeist before going under himself. Jesse's bravery was no surprise to anyone who knew him, especially given his military background. Mr. Speaker, the Boundary Waters is remote, making any rescue attempt complex. And during this time of the year, high water levels and fast currents made these efforts even more difficult. Jesse Haugen and Reese Grams both tragically died, but I am grateful to the St. Louis County Rescue Squad and Sheriff's Office for staying on the scene for 2 weeks until both men were located. Thanks to their determination and professionalism, the families of Jesse and Reese can now have closure, and I will continue to pray for them and our St. Louis County Sheriff's Rescue Squad. Mr. Chair, I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Pennsylvania seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
The United States is recovering from the pandemic faster than any other industrialized nation. In fact, the World Bank expects the United States economy to grow significantly faster than they initially predicted, and our growth is fueling a worldwide economic recovery. Yet prices remain stubbornly high: groceries, gas, and especially housing. Both realities are true. And one culprit of this is corporate profit-taking and greed. Because unemployment is low, our job market is strong, and inflation is cooling, yet prices are still up almost 19% since 2021. Historically, in the years leading up to the pandemic, corporate profits were responsible for approximately 11% of price increases. Contrast that with the second and third quarters of 2023. Corporate profits were responsible for more than 50% of price increases. And in the latest quarter of 2023, American corporate profits reached an all-time high of $2.8 trillion. President Biden and congressional Democrats are working to address this manipulation head-on, while my colleagues on the other side of the aisle propose tax cuts for the very corporations taking advantage. It's time to hear real solutions from the so-called leaders of the House. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Iowa seek recognition?
I ask for unanimous consent to address the House and revise the agenda.
Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, today we commemorate the 249th birthday of the United States Army. On this day, the Second Continental Congress transformed a local rebellion into a war for independence by establishing the Continental Army, which today is the United States Army. One day after the Army was established, Congress appointed French and Indian War veteran George Washington to be the very first commander of the Army, and the rest is history. The Army's birthday is a day where we can express gratitude for the brave men and women who served and continue to serve in our nation's oldest branch of the military. As one of 38 Army veterans currently serving in the U.S. House of Representatives, I'm honored to recognize this historic milestone. One thing everybody knows about the U.S. Army is that when duty calls, we will rise to the challenge. This will defend. God bless our troops, Iowa, and God bless the United States of America. I'd also like to acknowledge that today, June 14th, is Flag Day. Please remember and honor the values of our flag. I'd like to extend birthday wishes to President Donald Trump. Happy birthday, Mr. President. Mr. Speaker, I yield.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Massachusetts seek recognition? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I recently visited the Union Square Green Market in New York with Chef Evan Hanser, founder of Little Egg in Brooklyn. Evan is a chef ambassador for Chefs for Healthy Soil, a coalition that promotes the connection between sustainable agriculture and the foods that sustain us. We spoke with farmers who produce nutritious, locally grown food by focusing on soil health and sustainability. They understand the deep connection between the quality of delicious food at restaurants like Little Egg and the quality of the environment in which that food was grown. Access to food is a fundamental human right. Americans deserve a food system that secures that right for everyone while doing right by farmers, food workers, and the planet. Supporting our farmers as they protect soil health and sustain local food systems is one of the best tools we have to end hunger now. I want to thank Chef Evan and everyone at Union Square Green Market for introducing me to this important work, and I yield back.
Does the gentleman from Utah seek recognition?
Speaker, I seek unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and extend and revise my comments.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor the 155th anniversary of John Wesley Powell's daring expedition of the Green and Colorado Rivers. These findings literally put Utah's canyonlands on the map. These rivers and canyons are vital to Utah's economy, agriculture, and recreation. First, the expedition successfully navigated Flaming Gorge. The expedition then mapped and survived the vast canyons and open sagebrush flats of the present-day Uintah County and the Uintah and Ora Indian reservations. The expedition continued through Desolation Canyon into eastern Utah before meeting the confluence of the Colorado River in present-day Canyonlands National Park in San Juan County. This year, the Uintah County will commemorate the expedition with the musical Let's Go, a John Wesley Powell story, in addition to the 6th annual John Wesley Powell River Festival. These Western heroes created the records for the lands and rivers we are now so grateful to recreate and enjoy safely. I reserve the balance of my time.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Texas seek recognition?
To address the House for 1 minute to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and still I rise. Today I rise to remind us that as we celebrate Juneteenth, Let us not forget the men of the 25th Army Corps. General Gordon Granger came into Galveston, Texas to read General Order Number 3, announcing that the enslaved persons had been freed. But it was the 25th Army Corps that came in before General Gordon Granger and liberated Galveston, Texas. They were 1,000 persons who had been enslaved but were now free. The 25th Army Corps deserves recognition and they deserve commemoration. Let us remember them as well. God bless you, Mr. Speaker, and thank the United States of America.
For what purpose does the gentleman from North Carolina seek recognition?
I ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized.
Thank you. We witnessed this week a remarkable baseball contest where in the congressional baseball game, the Republicans defeated the Democrats 31-10. But Mr. Speaker, I rise today to congratulate and recognize some real baseball talent. I rise today to congratulate the T.C. Robertson Rams baseball team for winning North Carolina's High School Athletic Association's 4A state title for the second year in a row. The Rams finished the season with a 14-game winning streak, and the team won a decisive 8-1 shutout victory. The Rams are now just the third 4A school in North Carolina to win back-to-back championships and the first to do so in more than 2 decades. Coach Eric Philippic has mentored this group of young men for more than 13 years, and his dedication has guided them to be better players and better leaders. And hopefully, one day, some of these great athletes will also join our congressional baseball team. Congratulations, Rams. You have again made Western North Carolina proud. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from California seek recognition?
To address the body for 1 minute without objection.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, today I rise to honor the life and legacy of Anna Piercy, a devoted educator, community leader, a mother, and a personal friend. Anna dedicated about 40 years of her life to serving Anaheim Union High School District. Her journey in education started in 1968 as a 7th grade teacher at Trident Junior High School, where she instilled a love for education in all of her students. Anna went on to serve as a member of the Anaheim Union School Board, where she continued to advocate for students and educators. She also went to serve our community as member of Cypress City Council and as Cypress Mayor. Anna leaves behind a lasting legacy survived by her 2 daughters and 6 grandchildren. Anna, I join your family and our community in remembering your legacy. Thank you for your community involvement. Thank you for all you've done for us. We will not forget you. Mr. Speaker, I yield.
Pursuant to House Resolution 1287 and Rule 18, the Chair declares the House in the Committee of the Whole House on the State of the Union for further consideration of H.R. 8070. Will the gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Loudermilk, kindly take the chair?
The House is in the Committee of the Whole House on the State of the Union for further consideration of the bill H.R. 8070, which the clerk will report by title.
A bill to authorize appropriations for fiscal year 2025 for military activities of the Department of Defense, for military construction, and for defense activities of the Department of Energy to prescribe military personnel strengths for such fiscal year and for the purposes.
When the Committee of the Whole rose on Thursday, June 13th, 2024, Amendment number 53, printed in Part B of House Report 118-551, offered by the gentleman from South Carolina, Mr. Norman, had been disposed of. For what purpose does the gentleman from Alabama seek recognition?
Mr. Chairman, pursuant to H.Res. 1287, I offer amendments en bloc.
The clerk will designate the amendments en bloc.
On block number 4, consisting of amendments numbered 235, 236, 237, 238, 239, 240, 241, 242, 243, 244, 245, 246, 247, 248, 249, 250, 251, 252, 253, 254, 255, 256, 257, 258, 259, 260, 261, 262, 263, 264, 265, 266, 267, 268, 269, 270, 271, 272, 273, 274, 275, 276, 277, 278, 279, 280, 281, 282, 283, 284, 285, 286, 287, 288, and 289, printed in Part B of House Report Number 118-551, offered by Mr. Rogers of Alabama.
Pursuant to House Resolution 1287, the gentleman from Alabama, Mr. Rogers, and the gentleman from Washington, Mr. Smith, will each control 20 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Alabama.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This time I'd like to yield 5 minutes to my friend and colleague from Iowa, Mr. Nunn.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to Chairman Rogers for his leadership on the National Defense Authorization Act. I rise in support of 4 amendments today, including this en bloc. I offer my first amendment in memory of Lance Corporal Adam Lambert, a proud Marine from Adel, Iowa. He returned home and unfortunately lost his life to suicide shortly after his combat tour of duty. Today, America loses 22 of its veterans to suicide every single day. We must do more to stop this silent epidemic. Amendment 980 aims to reduce the number of veteran suicides by improving our Transition Assistance Program, or TAP, and a Solid Start program to alert transitioning veterans of the mental health services available to them today through the Veterans Affairs Administration. Second, fighting communist China requires America be a leader in cybersecurity. My amendment 1012 bans the Department of Defense from acquiring or procuring or utilizing blockchain technology, that technology created particularly by our foreign adversaries. The CCP is developing a new technology to manipulate America and infiltrate our national security by rewiring our hard infrastructure. America is investing heavily in blockchain technology today, developing a cloud storage technology and technology that is the future of data management for worldwide adoption expected in the next decade. So let me be clear. Failure for America to be able to act or for the Department of Defense to become a subsidiary of a Chinese blockchain is 1,000 times worse than anything even TikTok could present today. This is a critical step to stop this crisis before it's too late, Mr. Speaker, and protect Americans. Last, innovation in America's defense demands a public-private partnership, particularly with our most strategic allies. Amendments 1038 and 1055 will counter near-peer adversaries in the Middle East and tackle the tech advances that communist China has made. As Iran, Hamas, Hezbollah rain down terror on Israel, we must support our strongest ally in the Middle East as she defends herself. With these strategic partnerships, we can support not only our allies, but also learn from the innovations being created by our allies, create new pathways and new markets for our defense tech startups, and continue to leverage America's dominance and spirit of innovation to shape a safer world. These amendments will establish a key strategic partnership between the Defense Innovation Unit, where I've worked with our allies in Israel and Taiwan. So in closing, Mr. Speaker, I urge my colleagues to support this en bloc in a bipartisan way across both sides of the aisle. I thank the chairman for including this in his overall package. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the remainder of my time.
And I reserve.
Gentleman from Alabama reserves. Gentleman from Washington is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm now pleased to yield 1 minute to the gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Kildee.
Gentleman's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the ranking member for allowing me to speak on my amendment. It's a bipartisan amendment expressing a sense of Congress that we should not permanently store nuclear waste near the Great Lakes. My amendment responds to the Government of Canada's recent plans to build a facility that would permanently hold thousands of tons of high-level nuclear waste in the Great Lakes Basin, the greatest source of fresh water known to mankind. Permanently storing hazardous nuclear waste so close to our Great Lakes does not make any sense at all. A potential accident involving nuclear waste would threaten the drinking water of millions of people in the United States and Canada and jeopardize thousands of jobs in fishing, boating, and tourism industries. Surely, absolutely, there must be a safer location to permanently store radioactive waste than adjacent to the world's greatest source of fresh water. My amendment, which is included in this en bloc, has strong bipartisan support, and it would be an important step in protecting the Great Lakes. I urge my colleagues to support this en bloc, and I yield back.
The gentleman from Washington Reserves, gentleman from Alabama is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This time I'd like to yield 1 minute to my friend and colleague from Michigan, Mr. Wahlberg.
Gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank the chairman for including these en bloc amendments. I rise today in support of the en bloc, which contains 2 of my amendments. The first amendment would help identify the national security risk of autonomous vehicles from foreign adversary countries operating in the U.S. AVs will transform the future of transportation and increase safety on roads, but we must ensure our adversaries are not deploying data-collecting vehicles across our country, giving the likes of the CCP an unprecedented vantage point in the United States. The next amendment would help ensure our Department of Defense schools are not using TikTok for instructional purposes. As we know, ByteDance is beholden to the CCP, and we cannot allow our military installations or the schools operated by the DoD to become spy cells for the Chinese Communist Party. I urge adoption of the en bloc and the underlying bill, and I yield back.
I reserve.
Gentleman from Alabama reserves. Gentleman from Washington is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am pleased now to yield 1 minute to the gentlewoman from the United States Virgin Islands, Ms. Plaskett.
Gentlewoman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise in support of my amendment number 256 included in this en bloc. The United States and its allies are engaged in a global strategic competition with China and Russia. While Europe and the Indo-Pacific are the primary theaters of this contest, China and Russia are increasing their malign influence in the global south, including in Africa, Latin America, and the Caribbean. My amendment directs the Department of Defense to assess the impact of Russia's influence in South America, Central America, and the Caribbean on the national security and economic interests of the United States. This builds upon my amendment, which was included in fiscal year 23 NDAA, which directed the Department of Defense to assess the standing of U.S. military force posture in the Caribbean, given U.S. national and regional security interests in the region. I urge support of my amendment in the en bloc 4, and I yield back. Thank you.
The gentleman from Washington reserves. Gentleman from Alabama is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, I encourage my colleagues to support the en bloc package, and I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman from Alabama yields. The gentleman from Washington is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm now pleased to yield 1 minute to the gentleman from Rhode Island, Mr. Amo.
Gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Ranking Member Smith, for allowing me to speak on my amendment, number 267, in the en bloc. The Australia, United Kingdom, and United States Security Pact, also known as AUKUS, is one of the most significant security arrangements in generations. It is essential to maintaining free trade and security in the Indo-Pacific. As we strengthen our coordination of defense article production with our allies, we must continue to prioritize domestic research, producers, and procurement. AUKUS is a premier example of the domestic benefits. The University of Rhode Island and the Naval Undersea Warfare Center Division Newport formed research and education partnerships with Australian partners. AUKUS will also support good-paying jobs and small businesses across Rhode Island. My amendment reinforces twin ideas, that AUKUS is critical to protecting national security and that it boosts local economies by enhancing defense production capabilities. Let's ensure the Pentagon promotes and prioritizes domestic production as we work alongside our allies for a safer and more stable future. I urge my colleagues to support this amendment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields. Okay, the gentleman yields. I'm sorry, the gentleman from Washington is recognized.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I am now pleased to yield 1 minute to the... sorry, I wanted to make sure he was here. I apologize. I'm pleased to yield 1 minute to the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Green.
The gentleman's recognized.
And still I rise, and thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the gentleman for yielding the 1 minute. I thank those members of the Rules Committee who made this moment possible. Today I rise to call to the attention a 159-year-old injustice. Milton Holland was given a battlefield promotion. When he received that promotion, it was not validated later on when it was discovered that he was a person of African ancestry. The battlefield promotion he was given was denied because of who he was. He was a member of the Union Army, by the way. He received the Medal of Honor, but could not maintain the promotion that he received for the valor he displayed in battle. This injustice will be corrected today. Every person who votes will be bending the arc of the moral universe toward justice for Milton Holland. Thank you, and I yield back.
The gentleman yields. Gentleman from Washington is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I urge adoption of the en bloc amendment, and I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields. The question is on the amendments en bloc offered by the gentleman from Alabama, Mr. Rogers. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chairs, the ayes have it. The en bloc amendments are agreed to. For what purpose does the gentleman from Alabama seek recognition?
Mr. Chairman, pursuant to HRES 1287, I offer en bloc amendments.
The clerk will designate the amendments en bloc.
En bloc number 5, consisting of amendments numbered 290, 291, 292, 293, 294, 295, 296, 297, 298, 299, 300, 301, 302, 303, 304, 305, 306, 307, 308, 309, 310, 311, 312, 313, 314, 315, 316, 317, 318, 319, 320, 321, 322, 323, 324, 325, 326, 327, 328, 329, 330, 331, 332, 333, 334, 335, 336, 337, 338, 339, 340, 341, 342, 343, 344, 345, 346, 347, 348, and 350. Printed in Part B of House Report Number 118-551. Offered by Mr. Rogers of Alabama.
Pursuant to House Resolution 1287, the gentleman from Alabama, Mr. Rogers, and the gentleman from Washington, Mr. Smith, will each control 20 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Alabama, Mr. Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, I'd like to yield 1 minute to my colleague from Texas, Mr. Self.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Speaker, today I rise in support of my amendment, which requires the Secretary of Defense to review and report on the personnel records of military chaplains who suffered retaliation for seeking a religious accommodation for the COVID-19 vaccine. By way of background, the Department of Defense's COVID-19 vaccine mandate violated service members and chaplains' religious liberty and caused substantial harm to their careers. The DoD handling of the chaplain's religious accommodation request was an utter disgrace, involving blanket dismissals instead of dismissals considered on an individual basis. My amendment seeks to account for the injustices suffered by the military chaplains. The primary duty of chaplains is to provide spiritual guidance to our service members. To do so, like every American, they must be free to follow their conscience without facing retribution from the government they swore to defend. This amendment is an important first step to ensuring that those who serve our country can do so without sacrificing their freedoms, to quote the Declaration of Independence, endowed by their Creator. I urge my colleagues to support this amendment as part of this en bloc package, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields.
Reserve.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman from Washington is recognized.
I reserve my time. Thank you.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman from Alabama is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, I'd like to yield 2 minutes to my colleague from New York, Mr. Molinaro.
Gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks to Chairman Rogers and his leadership and steadfast support for the men and women of our armed services. Yesterday, I was proud to see 3 of my amendments pass the House, and now appreciate the opportunity to speak about 3 more. My first amendment requires critical oversight of the DoD's Education Activity Disability Emphasis Program to ensure it operates to support the employment, retention, and career advancements of those living with intellectual, physical, and developmental disabilities. Employment opportunities offer those with disabilities the experience to strengthen their soft skills and lead to independent lives. Nearly 70% of working-age people with disabilities are unemployed.